I request you all to please seated, and in a minute we'll be starting the session. Welcome back. We will now continue the technical session, and the first speaker for the session is Manu Khajuria, scientist, CSIR, Indian Institute of Integrative Medicine, India. And the title of her talk is Effect of Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol content on the phytochemical efficiency in cannabis sativa. She'll be presenting in person. You may please raise your hand. Thank you.
Science knows no country because knowledge belongs to humanity and is the torch which illuminates the world. Good morning, namaste to everyone. I am Dr. Manu Khajuria from CSIR Tripline, Jammu, India. It is an absolute pleasure to be a part of second Shanghai Cooperation Organization Young Scientist Conclave 2023. My topic of presentation is effect of delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, that is THC content on the photochemical efficiency in cannabis sativa. First of all, I will explain the background. Cannabis sativa belongs to the family Cannabinaceae, is widely adapted to different environments around the world. This plant contains cannabinoids in which THC and CBD are the main. Originally, cannabis was indigenous to the temperate regions of the Asia, but now it has grown in a variety of habitats ranging from sea level in the tropical areas to alpine foothills of Himalayas. It is well known that the capacity of a plant to adapt to adverse environment changes is closely correlated with its ability to modify the photosynthetic performance of a plant. And also the plant productivity depends upon the photosynthetic rate. Based on this, the present study was devised. Does cannabis has a responsive photosynthetic system? This is the picture representing a variety which is rich in THC content, whereas this is the picture representing a variety which is rich in CBD content. Now I will explain the work plan and methodology. First of all, seeds of 7 different accessions of cannabis sativa were collected from different parts of India. These were allowed to grow under non-native conditions at CSIR Tripline Jammu. Various biochemical and physiological measurements were analyzed during the vegetative stage after 40 days of plantation. Various morphological characteristics, chlorophyll, fluorescence parameters, photosynthetic pigments, and cannabinoids were analyzed. Various photosynthetic proteins were analyzed by using Western blot techniques, and also the lipid peroxidation was analyzed. Now comes to the results. Now, this is the table representing different sites from where the cannabis seeds were collected based on their local knowledge of psychoactive properties. Now, cannabinoids and pigments were analyzed. Only the two accessions, that is UKN and UPB, showed significant amount of CBD. A gradient of THC from 0.63 to 12.2 milligram per 100 gram dry weight was observed among different accessions. Therefore, we grouped different accessions into three different groups based on their CBD and THC content. Group 1, which contains CBD greater than THC. Group 2, which contains THC content less than 4 milligram per 100 gram dry weight. And group 3, which contains THC greater than 6 milligram per 100 gram dry weight. Now, this is the table representing pigments in different accessions. The two different accessions, that is UK and UPB, which has high content of CBD, this shows high amount of pigments as compared to the other accessions. Now comes to the morphological and fluorescence characteristics. Plant height, number of branches, plant biomass. These all were highly reduced in case of group 3, which contains high amount of THC content. Same is the case with the chlorophyll fluorescence parameters, that is FVYF and plant performance index, in which both of these are highly reduced in case of group 3, which contains high amount of THC content. Now comes to the OGIP kinetics and NPQ parameters. Both of these are highly reduced in case of group 3, which contains high amount of THC, whereas the group 1, which contains high amount of CBD, has high value of both non-photochemical quenching and OGIP kinetics. Then the lipid peroxidation, and we found that MDA content was highly increased in case of group 3, which contains high amount of THC content. Now, the photosynthetic machinery was analyzed by using Western blot techniques, in which the protein D1 protein RBCL light harvesting hollow complex was analyzed, and we found that the group 1, which contains high amount of CBD, these proteins are highly intact in case of group 1, whereas in case of group 2nd and 3rd, these are highly degraded. Now, this is the table representing different correlations of CBD and THC with the photosynthetic pigments, and we found that CBD is highly positively correlated with the photosynthetic pigments, whereas THC is highly negatively correlated with the photosynthetic pigments. Then the same is the case with the chlorophyll fluorescence parameters. CBD is highly positively correlated with the chlorophyll fluorescence parameters, whereas THC is highly negatively correlated with the chlorophyll fluorescence parameters. Now, different concentration of THC were applied to the Arabidopsis thaliana, as these as it is not containing any phytocannabinoids, therefore it is an ideal choice for treatment experiments. We observe a dose-dependent decrease in the chlorophyll fluorescence parameters. Here we see FVY-FM parameters is highly reduced as the dose of THC content was increased in treatment. The same is the case with the OGIP kinetics and NPQ parameters, in which the concentration, that is 1000 micromolar, in this concentration it is highly reducing. Now comes to the outcomes of the study. THC content influences the morphology and biomass. CBD might protect the degradation of the photosynthetic apparatus. Photochemical efficiency is negatively correlated with the THC content, and THC treatment on Arabidopsis also reduces photochemical efficiency. Now comes to the significance of the study. The relative content of cannabinoids defines the biomass yield, which is an important component in the cannabis industry, and chlorophyll fluorescence measurements can be a quick tool for the high screening of the cannabis based on the cannabinoid content. Now comes to the acknowledgement. I am really thankful to Dr. Dheeraj Vyas, Principal Scientist and Head Plant Sciences and Agrotechnology Division, CSIR Tripline Jammu, Dr. D. Srinivas Reddy, Director, CSIR Tripline Jammu, for providing me necessary facilities. I am really thankful to Sakin Shanghai Cooperation Organization Young Scientist Conclave 2023 for providing me this important opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the wonderful talk, Dr. Manu. Now, moving on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Vakarchuk Roman Nikolaevich, IPES, RAS, Russia. The title of the talk is Typification of the Earth's Crust in Seismic Hazard Assessment. He'll be presenting online, in person. Yeah, thank you.
Good day, my name is Roman Vakarchuk. I'm working in Schmidt Institute of Physics of the Earth of the Russian Academy of Science. The Earth's crust, in the most general terms, is divided into oceanic and continental. Plain and mountain areas represent the continental crust. In the oceanic crust, the beds of oceans, continental slopes, and mid-ocean ridges are distinguished. Input data has a different resolution, so we use the lowest. It's 1 by 1 degrees. The typification of the Earth's crust was proposed by Reisner on the example of the territory of Europe and Central Asia. The Earth's crust is divided into cells of approximately the same area. Each of the sections is characterized by a set of geological and geophysical parameters: heat flow density, thickness of the Earth's crust, and sedimentary, the absolute height of the relief, and the isostatic anomaly of gravity. It's assumed that this set of characteristics will uniquely characterize each cell, which will make it possible to divide the cells into a group according to the endogenous regime. Typification was carried out in order to determine the predictive parameters of seismicity effects, the magnitude of the earthquake. In the cells of one group, the maximum magnitudes of recorded earthquakes were compared. If in some of cells the magnitude was known, the forecast was made that the magnitude from the known one is achievable in it. In the next slides, you can see graphical representation of input data. Continental crust is thinner than oceanic. The map of sediments thickness. Minimum elevation. This map shows the deepest place of our planet. Mean value of elevation in each cell looks like physical map of the world. Maximum elevation. This map shows the highest places. Isostatic anomalies. Minimum, mean, maximum. Geothermal heat flow takes the highest values on the mid-ocean ridges. Hierarchical clustering is an agglomerative, top-down clustering method. As its name suggests, the idea of this method is to build a hierarchy of clusters showing relations between the individual members and merging clusters of data based on similarity. In the first step of clustering, the algorithm will look for the two most similar data points and merge them to create a new pseudo data point, which represents the average of the two merged data points. Each iterative step takes the next two closest data points, or pseudo data points, and merges them. This process is generally continued until there is one large cluster containing all the original data points. Hierarchical clustering results in a tree shows the relationship of all of the original points. This tree names dendrogram. The distance threshold is used to set the number of clusters. If in high we have low number of clusters, if it low we have a lot of clusters. In order to the clustering algorithm to work, we need to have some means by which similarity is judged. This is generally called a distance measurement. So we should choose rules how to measure the distance between clusters. For example, shortest, average, complete. Distance between that data points included them. And metric Euclidean, Mahalanobis, Minkowski, etc. For this study, I tested 51 metric distance rules combination and stay on Euclidean and word method. Euclidean space is the fundamental space of geometry. Word distance depends on number of data points in cluster. It is similar to Euclidean distance for single data point clusters. The large cluster contain all the cells. Two clusters divide the Earth crust into continental and oceanic. Now we can see some territories of mid-ocean ridges. Case for clusters, case for 5 clusters. In the level of 14 clusters, we can see subduction zones. Here the examples shows large number of clusters. There is a diagram of seismic hazard assessment. To determine maximum acceleration, we should know magnitude, distance, and many other parameters. Magnitude is one of the main parameters that determines the acceleration on the site. We could get it by Earth crust typification. Finally, we give an implementation of method. South Baikal region has maximum instrumental magnitude 6.3. Closest cell has magnitude 8.1. Result: we should to update maximum magnitude of South Baikal region to 8.1. Thank you.
Thank you for the interesting talk. Now we'll move to another one. The next speaker is Bibek Chaw Pattnayak, PhD scholar from National Institute of Technology, Rourkela. The title of his talk is Multifunctional Bio-Based Photothermal Hydrogel for Highly Efficient Seawater Desalination and Contaminant Adsorption. He'll be presenting in person.
Hi, this is Vivek Chopra from Department of Chemistry and Hydrogel. In this session, I am going to present my topic, Design of Hydrogen-based Photothermal Evaporator for Solar Light-Driven Water Use. Here are the outlets, as you can see, introduction, literature survey, result discussion, and conclusion. Before going to the topic, let me discuss about the water crisis. Basically, the 70% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, but here only less than 0.3% is accessible in terms of lakes, ponds, and creeks. So the major fresh water scarcity is increasing globally day by day with the increasing global population. To meet that challenge, we have to use some alternate water sources like brackish water, seawater, and seawater. So thinking about that earlier, that various techniques are developed like electrolysis, reverse osmosis, coagulation, and many other techniques. But the drawbacks of these techniques are that it needs very high cost and very large energy consumption, as well as it leads to, by emitting, let's say we will use fossil energy to generate heat, it will lead to the environmental pollution by emitting the greenhouse gases. Besides, it is very much sensitive to fouling, so it needs regular maintenance. So thinking about all these drawbacks, our target is to develop a cost-effective purifier by using the renewable energy sources, as well as we will try to reduce the consumption of energy. So keeping all this in our mind, the best energy source to use is the solar energy, which is a renewable energy source. So earlier, the sunlight dependent what interfacial evaporation techniques were used to get the fresh water. Here, as you can see, there is a container where they put the sweat water, seawater, and irradiated sunlight. Then the fresh water is just by evaporating from the interfacial surface, just rolling down and deposited at the distillate channel. Using the same method, they can get the evaporation rate of around 1.4 liter of purified water, which cannot meet the daily demand of a single people. So what we did, we just used a solar absorber in that technique. A photothermal material was used to enhance the surface temperature so that we can get, instead of 1 to 4 liter, we can get 40 liter of water. Various solar absorbers are used. Besides, earlier hydrogel based evaporator were the best one to meet that challenge because it can generate a 2.71 kg per meter square in 1 hour. Why? Because it can develop a water porous channel so that the water can transfer to the evaporation surface easily. So what are the literature guess? Now using that technique, the evaporation rate and energy consumption was very low and the energy consumption was very high. Besides, the anti-soil fouling and cost-effective behavior was not taken into consideration during that day. Keeping all these factors in our mind, we just targeted to develop a multifunctional bio-based photothermal evaporator for highly efficient seawater desalination and contaminant. What we did, now here, we just take FeCl2 and FeCl3 as a precursor for the development of Fe3O4 and NCQD, and for the synthesis of NCQD, we just use melamine and citric acid, and we just put into autoclave and got a NCQD Fe3O4 nano composite, and we just put that into a hydrogel composite of PVA, polyvinyl alcohol, and xylem husk. Xylem husk is nothing that the isopropyl that we use in our daily day-to-day life, which is a biomass and very renewable energy source. What is the use? Now this technique was using this solar absorber that is magnetically active. Since Fe3O4 is there, so it is magnetically active. So what we did, we just use a bar magnet to get all the material to one surface. Why? We'll discuss this later. As you can see, we do the freeze thaw process and freeze dry to get the porous channel. As you can see, only at the top surface the solar absorber is there because we are using an interfacial evaporator. So we need the temperature at the interfacial surface. That's why we use the magnet assisted technique to get the solar absorber at the top side of the evaporator surface. So here are the characterization for the synthesis of NCQD Fe3O4. As can be seen from the HRTM and XRT images, the presence of the 002, 319 and many other planes like 220, the 002 graphitic plane show the presence of NCQD, and the all other peak in the XRD show the presence of the Fe3O4 nanoparticles. Besides from the Roman data, the ID by usually found to be 0.93, which show the graphitic nature of our synthesis material. Here, since we have used the PVA and xylem husk hybrid hydrogel, so as you can see, why we have used that to get the porous capillary channels. So as you can see, in only PVA there is no porous structure developed, but with the increase in xylem husk, the interconnected channel and pore structure is developed because the xylem husk is a chemical cross-linker, and with the much increase in the pore structure and channel will starts decreasing. So since we have used the solar absorber for the surface interfacial in enhancing of the surface temperature, so under the solar radiation of one sun, as you can see, the IR images show that the surface temperature is around 48 degree and the bottom water is 34. That means nearly 14 to 15 degree temperature is increasing. So we go for the evaporation calculation evaporation rate. As can be seen, pH is 3, what we have developed by cross-linking PB and xylem was pH is 3. So then highest evaporation rate of around 2.6, which is much higher than the normal water, around 4 times higher. So why we have used magnet assisted? Because when we are using magnet assisted or the interfacial layer, the solar absorber concentration is higher. That's why it can be seen using the same concentration of solar absorber. Without magnet, we are getting around 1.9 kg per meter square, but with the magnet, we are getting 2.6 kg per meter square. Besides, the best use of hydrogel is that salt mitigation technique. So to prove that, we just put some salt on that evaporated surface, and there can be seen with the time lapse, the salt is mitigating to the bottom water. Besides, the tuning of specific water state is also the major factor, because intermediate water is the only state which needs less energy to evaporate. So with the various cross linking, as you can see, pH 3 is showing the highest ratio of intermediate water. That's why pH 3 shows the highest evaporation rate. Besides, for the application performance, as you can see from the desalination point of view, the sodium, magnesium, potassium, and calcium concentration in the desalination water is much lower than that of WHO limit. Besides, it can also absorb organic dye as well as amoxicillin antibiotic. Why this is possible? This is possible due to the various chemical bonding like OH structure and COH, which can bind to the antibiotic through or the dyes through the hydrogen bonding and electrostatic interaction. And this one is already published in the Journal of Environmental Chemical Engineering. Next, we are targeting to develop a bi-layer based photothermal evaporator where the top layer will be the hydrophobic photothermal material and the bottom water will be a photocatalytic hydrophilic layer, so that it can also degrade the volatile organic contaminant to be evaporated from the bottom water. So the conclusion is that we just achieve an highest evaporation rate of 2.6 by using the xylem as a solar absorber. And next, our target is to develop a VOC removal based photothermal evaporator. So finally, I would like to thank my supervisor and Nande Raukla as well as the financial support for giving me the opportunity to fulfill my work. And also I would like to thank Jain CSR for inviting me for this talk. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful talk. On the last speaker of this session is Trinikov Andrei Andreevich, IPES RAS Russia, and the title of the talk is Seismo-Ecological Analysis of the Northern Tian Shan Mountains and Adjacent Territories. He'll be presenting in person. Can you please raise your hand?
Dear colleagues, my name is Andrei Strelnikov. I present to you my report, Seismo-Ecological Analysis of the Northern Tian Shan Mountains and Adjacent Territories. An earthquake is the sudden release of strain energy in the Earth's crust, resulting in waves of shaking that radiate outwards from earthquake source. When stress in the crust exceeded the strength of the rock, it breaks long lines of weakness, either a pre-exiting of new fault plane. The point where an earthquake starts is termed the focus of hypocenter, and may be many kilometers deep within the Earth. The point at the surface directly above the focus is called the earthquake epicenter. Modern seismographs allow not only to detect, but also to register and record earthquake parameters. However, there is a need to measure the magnitude and intensity of an ancient earthquake. This question will be answered by such a science as a paleoseismology. Paleoseismology studies the effect of strong ancient earthquakes. It is divided into three main branches. First, this is in fact paleoseismology. It studies traces of strong earthquakes in soils and terrain. The second is archaeoseismology, which studies seismic deformation in archaeological and historical monuments. Third, historical seismology, searches for information about earthquake in ancient manuscripts and publications. The aim of the project is the research of the adverse influence of the earthquake upon the ecogeological conditions of Northern Tian Shan Mountains and surrounding areas. Now the project is focused on the territory of the Northern Tian Shan because this region is one of the most active tectonic regions within the Himalaya mountain belt. This area is characterized by strong seismic activity with several known recent historical and polyseismic catastrophes such as Susamir 1992, Charkal 1946, Kibin 1911, Kamenko of 12th century, and many others. To achieve the goal of the project, the following objectives will be solved. Mapping and classifying morphological disturbance of territories on basis on aerial and space images interpretation, and its direct in-field study. Estimation of changes which occur in hydrogeological conditions of the area due to the earthquakes. By use of dendrochronology method and other methods of paleoseismology to define more presently ages of the seismic catastrophes and so consequently seismic hazards in the study area. Assess the state of the ecological and geological environment in the areas of active faults and adjacent mountainous areas. Elaborating recommendations for optimal management of economic activities in the disturbed by man and polluted territories. Special investigations of traces of the ancient earthquakes were conducted during the last decades. Summary of these studies was collected in book of PhD in Geology Korchenkov and in the circle of works PhD in Geology Strelnikov. Parameterization of strong paleoseismicity of the northern Tian Shan, a post-platform Aragen. These structures are a key source of information about epicentral areas and energy of ancient strong seismic events. Problems appear when the scholars want to determine the age of those catastrophes. They are recurrent intervals. These data are crucial at the seismic hazards assessment of the mountains territories. This problem is always acute in the construction of energy, transport and residential facilities, where requests for the occurrence of earthquakes over the past 10,000 years and more are raised. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for that interesting talk. We will now move on to the question and answer session. I request all the participants present here to please raise your hands and our volunteers will help you out with the mics. And for the online participants, you can type in your questions in the chat box and we'll be taking all your questions. Thank you.
My question to Mr. Andre, uh, for your seismic recording, what technique you are using, a passive seismic or explosive kind of seismic?
No explosives seismic. I use on information about ancient earthquakes. I'm using a trenching, maybe.
You mean you are using passive seismic technology?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, please?
Yeah, my question is for Dr. Manu. So you have collected sample from different altitude. So do you see any relationship between the compound content and the altitude from where you have collected the samples?
Yeah, I have collected sample from various altitudes, but there is no specific correlation of cannabinoids with relations to the altitude. Actually, this is the study we have collected seeds and allowed to grow in a particular area, but now we are trying to study the native population so that because CBD has a potential to protect the photochemical efficiency, and when we rise in the high altitude, this might be a protective mechanism. So we are now focusing on the native population so as to get concrete results.
Yeah, and is this your current lab research? Like you have recently joined, so what are you going to do in your?
Actually, my core area is plant adaptation, and during my PhD, I have focused on a particular plant that is Lepidium latifolium, which has anti-cancerous activity, and in the area of adaptation, it is highly adopted plants because in other countries it is growing as a weed, but in Ladakh it is growing in particular patches and it has wide amplitude. We can see it from Kashmir to high altitudes, that is Mahe, but it is has a special characteristic of growing in patches and it is highly adaptive plant. This is the study of my PhD work, but this is another study that I have taken in a cannabis sativa, because this is the first study in which we have established a correlation between phytocannabinoids and photochemical efficiency, because earlier there are many reports regarding their medical use, but this is the first study. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Manu, it's a nice work. So I just want to know how do you quantify the photochemical efficiency? Is that a photochemical efficiency? How do you quantify that a material is a good photochemical efficiency?
Actually, sir, there are various instruments to study the photochemical efficiency of a plant. One is, I have used in the studies chlorophyll fluorescence parameter, which we can study with the use of chlorophyll fluoropan FP100, and there is another one instrument, IRGA, infrared gas analyzer, through which we can study the photochemical efficiency of a plant. Yes.
How do you do that through infrared?
Actually, it's the instrument, sir, in which light is given, and based on the carbon dioxide uptake and use, we can detect the various parameters regarding the photochemical efficiency, sir.
So by seeing that CO2 uptake,
yeah, but in this study, I have used fluoropan, that is based on chlorophyll fluorescence measurements, that is used for the quantification of photochemical efficiency of a plant.
So normally, what is the range you would expect this kind of plants, photochemical efficiency?
Generally, the plant, its FVYFM parameter that shows the quantum yield of a plant, that is the actual photochemical efficiency of the plant. Okay. Generally, the plant value range from 0.67 to 0.83, but when the value goes down below 0.75, it shows the plant has some stress, some kind of stress is there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
But this kind of things, this will be used not just to this plant alone, any other plant also you can.
Yeah, it can be used in. Actually, the focus of the area is that whenever we have to quantify some plants, we have to take samples. But this is the screening process, how we can use photochemical efficiency to screen a particular secondary metabolite so that the whole plant is not damaged, so that the population is not damaged. We have to target on a particular plant that is showing more efficiency. In this case, the plant that is more efficient in case of photochemical efficiency has high content of CBD, and these plants are much larger in size as compared to the THC variety. These THC variety plants are highly dwarfed. Actually, this is the screening process, how we can use photochemical efficiency of a plant to screen particular secondary metabolite of a plant.
So this you will be looking in the visible region, you are looking at it.
Yes, sir, yes.
Is there any specific wavelength which you are looking when you are having as a plant, you are looking for the photochemical efficiency? It may have other content which can also take that light. How do you separate that it is?
Actually, sir, in this instrument, there is a wavelength of wavelength in which we can measure the particular photosynthetic efficiencies.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And the other one, Bibek, Chaw, Pattnayak. So in your case, you are mixing with the iron oxides only to separate easily for that purpose? Iron oxide,
Yes, sir.
Fe3O4.
Yes, sir. Actually, NCQD has also some photothermal property, as well as Fe3O4 also has some photothermal property. So we are just compositing NCQD in the Fe3O4. So that what happen when we are using magnet, so that because only interfacial layer we need the temperature. So if we use the magnet, so that all the particle will be agglomerated at the bottom, and just we turn that upside down, so that the interfacial will have the only material, photothermal material, so that the cost will be decreased.
I just to understand it. So you have water adsorption on what? It is in a gel. It is.
Yeah.
That will be penetrated network.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So yeah. We are just taking a container, then we just it's a floating material, hydrogel.
Okay.
First, when it is in hydrogel form, it is dipping. But when we are doing the freeze thaw and freeze dry process, then the porous channel is developed.
So you remove all the water from the gel, so you make the porous, which will be floating on the water. Okay. Okay.
Then when we are just irradiating sunlight, then the water is evaporating and collecting in the distillate. There, all the sodium potassium material which is in high content in seawater, they are not getting out in the distillate. As well as like methylene blue, or let's say amoxicillin, ciprofloxacin antibiotics, since PBA and xylem has various functional group. So there is.
No, sorry, I'm sorry, I missed that point. You put the dried whatever the gel above the water, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the water is evaporated.
Yeah.
So it goes through the pores of that gel, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then it is getting collected there.
Yeah.
In the gel.
Yeah. There is a container. There it is collecting.
So
the water is evaporating. Okay. And it is just collecting in the decline nature.
But the gel will not take that water?
Sir, it is just continuous process. Na? The water is coming to the gel, and upon irradiation of sunlight, the top water is evaporating.
Okay. So you are again irradiating the gel from the gel. You are evaporating to that one. Okay. And but it will be a bit high temperature. You have to give.
No, sir.
More
sunlight,
than what
natural sunlight.
That is sufficient.
Yes, sir. Sir, that means we are just enhancing the evaporation rate. Let's say in normal water temperature, water has an evaporation rate of around 0.6 kg per meter square temperature. But when we are just putting this hydrogel on it, then the surface temperature is increasing up to 15 or 16 degree. So due to the enhancement in the temperature of that photothermal material, the evaporation rate is increasing.
Okay, so that means your porous material also has that lot of
So
it's heating up the local heating.
Let's say if it is a flat surface, then the sunlight will irradiate and reflected back. If it is porous, then it has a chance of greater absorbance. So that the temperature
goes up, that the water again goes up like
Like since it's a hydrogel, the water is just in a cyclic manner is just moving.
Okay. So then how much is the iron oxide content you are having it here?
I have not done that one. But
you took that Fe3O4. Now, how much per gram of your hydrogel? How much you are having it? Percentage of?
For synthesis of 1 meter square, that is around 0.8 or something like that.
Very little amount.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question to Dr. Manu. Actually, this THC, it's a secondary metabolite, right?
Yes.
Then how it is correlated with photosynthetic efficiency, because that two are entirely different pathway. So whether you have done any analysis on that, how the pathways are correlated?
Actually, ma'am, both the pathways are not different. They have a common precursor, that is isopentyl pyrophosphate, and this is the precursor molecule for both cannabinoid pathway as well as for pigment pathway. That may be related, and we are doing research which particular gene is responsible for the shifting of negative correlation to THC and positive correlation to CBD. We are just looking for that.
First of all, congratulations for your nice work and appreciate your nice presentation. Since we have some time, I'll ask a few questions. So, start with Vivek. Just a follow-up question. You surface temperature, how did you measure? Or you just, speculation surface temperature increased by 15 degree?
No, sir. There is a IR thermal camera.
Okay.
So that we are monitoring.
Okay. So if that is the case, this gel is stable in that particular temperature for a longer period.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So did you check that one?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Because the porosity and absorption ability also can be changed over a period of time.
Yeah.
What is the duration stability you
Sir,
have tested?
we have checked up to 90 days cycle. We have
90
checked.
days.
Yeah.
So still,
It
it's
is
intact.
stable. Yeah. Little bit of decrease in the evaporation rate, but it is stable.
All right. And then technical point of view, or maybe, so if I give 1 liter of water,
Yeah.
Seawater, and what is the amount of, gel, you require to evaporate the whole water?
Yes, sir. If you take, let's say, small areas of evaporator, then it will take
Any
greater time.
quantification have you done?
Yes, sir. It's in kg meter square per
That
hour.
I noticed 2.6 kilogram
per meter square.
meter
If we
square,
take the surface area of that hydrogel,
that is a surface, right?
Yeah.
So the moment you got, in a bucket or
Yeah.
in a, the tray,
Yeah.
this can be different, right?
Yeah.
So how do you manage that one? Say, for example, you go to seawater.
Yeah.
That depends on the deep, the deep nature. it can be different kind of behavior, right?
Yes, sir.
That any control study you have done? So if
Sir,
you say 10 meter, 5 meter, 1 centimeter, any
No, sir.
variation?
We just got a container first. Then we just, because hydrogel is, you can mold the shape. Whatever mold you are taking, it will just take the shape. So we just accordingly we design our hydrogel so that no other surface is there, so that our data can be, let's say, there will be some error. If let's say this is the area, then hydrogel will cover all the area of that container.
Okay. So application point. Suppose if you take water from river.
Yeah.
Or water from sea.
Yeah.
Sea from different parts of sea.
Yeah.
Have you checked that one? Because the compositions can be different.
Yeah,
right?
sir. Actually, we have taken from the Paradip port, Bay of Bengal. We have taken the real sample also.
Okay.
And there the sodium potassium concentration is decreasing.
Okay.
And for that dye and antibiotic, we have not taken the real sample. We just spike some sample.
Little bit arsenic is also high in that area.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How you that is also toxic in nature.
Yeah.
So have you checked the purified water? What is the purified?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we just standardized it with the WHO limit also, and it is much lower than that of WHO limit. Around, let's say, sodium concentration is decreasing around 10,000 times.
Wonderful. Okay, so I just moved to question Roman. He's not here? He left, okay. So, Dr. Manu, so many questions asked. So you were talking about the THC content in biomass that is affecting, right? That's what, if I remember correctly.
Please repeat question, sir.
So the THC content in the biomass, so that will affect them in overall, the overall nature of your study is also affecting.
Yes, sir.
My question, so nowadays biomass is a hot topic. So how we can utilize biomass efficiently for the utilization, if you look at natural resource management. So when you produce some chemicals from here, so this particular chemical effect in the production of or utilization of biomass, have you thought about?
Actually, sir, biomass is directly correlated with the photosynthetic efficiency of the plant. And in this study, I want to develop a strategy for screening the cannabinoid content so that the whole population of the plant may not be damaged. And this may come in environment protection, I think.
Okay, is it geographically, different or so because you are taken from IIT GEM that?
Yes, sir, it is totally different.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Roman is not here. My last question is Andre. Okay, fine. So you moved the space. So the recent earthquake happened. And so can you just, I mean, predict this one based on your study? I mean, what are the locations and everything? So already, I mean, the toll is going up and up, you know, the recent earthquake. So how do you comment on that?
I talk about Turkey earthquake.
Yeah.
Yes. This place is has a very high seismicity, and it's before this everyone understand that in this place might be earthquakes with so great magnitude, but nobody knows when.
When, okay.
And it's a pity that nobody knows. There are one law of magnitude occurrence. Its name is Gutenberg-Richter law, and but it uses to studying seismic regime only, and it can't use we can't use it to forecast earthquake when it must be so actually I said that nobody knows that.
Nobody knows. So yeah, okay, thank you. Ooh. Oh yes, Andrea. Yeah, thank you very much for the nice presentation.
I thank all the participants for their active participation. Over to Dr. Ravi. He has some announcement.
Hello everyone. So just a couple of updates for you guys. The certificates are just a dummy copy of it, a black and white printout, like something like this, will be kept when you come back from lunch. It will be kept at the registration desk. So your name, like I told you, your name, your flag, and your whatever institute you're affiliated to will be there. Please double check, and if it is okay, that's fine. You can just leave it. So tomorrow morning we'll be printing it out, and after the validatory function, you'll all be getting your certificates as well. That is one announcement. The second announcement is that for the country coordinators in particular, Valeria is here and Nazarov is here, and for you also. So tomorrow there will be in the validatory section, you will get an opportunity to really talk to and tell about your experience about this conclave. I think we'll also have the country coordinator from China also join us to share your views. So my request to you is that as country coordinators from your own country, people who have presented either in person or online, you can get some feedback so that you can summarize them and tell them way forward. One of the things I understand is that a lot of people are excited and they want to really find ways going forward and how to connect it. And maybe this is some common theme that we can explore, what all the countries can come together to do. That is something that certainly we can do it. And another final request is that for the people who took a domestic flight from Delhi to Bangalore, we need a signature on the boarding pass. So again, the registration will have it. So after lunch, we can all come here for 5 minutes. I'll get some signatures from you guys. It's just for paperwork for us. And then we can go and have the chemical exposition visit. In the chemical exposition visit is like an outreach program. As a research institute, I'm pretty sure in universities and research institutes across the world, they also have an outreach program where college students and students from even schools can come and visit a research institute. And then the challenge for us is to explain them in very simple language what research you're doing and how it is very useful. And sometimes when you're doing basic research, it's difficult to explain. but we get maybe, I don't know, several hundred students coming every year here, and to motivate them about the Nobel Prizes that you can win, the kind of research that happens, a bit of history of science, there is a gallery that we have made with actual demonstrations and models of various aspects of chemistry and biology. So that is the exposition you will be taken to. It's in the campus. And once that exposition is over, you will also visit all the facilities that we have, state-of-the-art research facilities in terms of from the material science, chemistry, and engineering side, and also from the biological science side. After that visit and looking at all the facilities, you'll also have a high tea. And after the high tea, you'll be having visits to 3 institutes. 2 are research institutes, and 1 is a company. It's like we call it as an incubator. It's a government place where startup companies can come with ideas, and that will allow them to start their company in a campus where academic research is going on, so they can collaborate and take care of it. So this is National Center for Biological Sciences is an institute. INSTEM is another institute. And then we have CCAMP, the Center for Advanced Molecular Platforms, which are useful for having very successful startups that are going on. So you get a flavor of a little bit about the industry as well. And so with that, thank you all for your patience, and let's move forward to the same place for lunch. My request to you is that I didn't have enough time to make it, but can we do this way that on every table we have theme-based people sitting in rather than country-based people sitting today? Maybe you can have some interaction. Yeah. Okay, and I'm going to put this on the country coordinators. Please sit on 3 different tables and make sure that you take some theme and make sure that some of the theme people are there. I don't want Indians sitting in one side and other countries' guys sitting in other side. But this is one of your last lunches, so I would like you to really talk to each other. I know yesterday evening was fun, but maybe you can talk a little bit more about science, okay? Enjoy your lunch.